Hi, this is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're going to take a look at the Montech AIR 903 Max. This case, I can't see any justifiable reason why you wouldn't want to buy this case. Now we'll start off first of all with the price, because that is going to be the real important key decision here. Regardless if you like the looks or whether it's a little bit too big, the price of this is absolutely spectacular. Now at the moment here in the UK, it is June 2024, and this is actually $59.99 delivered from places such as scan.co.uk and also amazon.co.uk. Now, if you don't like the fact that it's black and it's got addressable RGB fans, which why would you not like that? But if you don't like that, there's options of a white version as well. And also there is a version that doesn't come with RGB fans, or basically no fans at all. So there's going to be pretty much something for everyone. And of course, if you do go for those other versions, you may find them to be even cheaper still, which makes this case an absolute steal. And I think this is going to be one of the ones I recommend for builders going forward, unless something else better comes along, which I can't see that it will. This is definitely going to take over from the place from the GameMax F15 mesh, which I've liked and loved for such a long time. That is a fantastic case, and this is equally as good. So in today's video, I'm going to go through, do a bit of a teardown, a bit of a tour of the case, go through all the features, all the pros and the cons, of which I don't think there's going to be many, but potentially there might be a few. And then you can work out whether or not this is going to be suitable for your next relatively budget ATX build. So to start with, I should make it clear, this video is in no way, shape or form sponsored by either Montech, scan.co.uk or amazon.co.uk. This case was purchased by us using our own funds on scan.co.uk. It was $59.99, including free next day postage, ordered on a Friday, turned up midday on Saturday, so that is absolutely fantastic. And like I said, you can possibly get this from amazon.co.uk, although at the time of recording this video, there was a slight delay in the lead time of about a week or so. So obviously the choice is down to you. I will put affiliated links in the video description for scan.co.uk, Amazon and various other retailers, so you can check out the local pricing near you and also availability. I should also mention as well, due to full disclosure, the affiliated links in the video description may well earn us a very small commission on any items purchased. It won't cost you anything extra, but it goes to help the channel. Right, with all that nonsense out of the way, let's get in and have a look at this thing. And I've got to be honest with you, I've had a tour of this already, I've filmed some of the B-roll, and I'm genuinely excited about this case. And it's been a long time since I've been like that, so yeah, this is actually pretty special. And it's actually the first time we've actually seen a Montech case on the channel. So as a first outing, I think they've done, again, a spectacular job. I keep on saying that word, and it really is true. This case has pretty much everything you could possibly want from a e-atx case, which will also fit micro ATX and ATX motherboards should you wish to. It's got a ton of storage room in there. It comes included with 4 120mm fans, 3 of which in the front are addressable RGB, and they're also full range PWM fans. Quite often with relatively budget cases, you end up getting, well, let's face it, tack fans. They're awful. These are absolutely great. They've got a rotational speed of between 350 RPM up to 1500 RPM, which for a 140mm fan is more than adequate. And in terms of noise profile, they're basically silent until you get around about 1000 RPM, in which case you can start to hear air moving at full blast. They're actually not too bad at all, but you probably wouldn't want to run them at full blast 24/7. It might get a little bit annoying, but if you're wearing headphones, then it isn't going to be a problem at all. The fans themselves, for those of you that are wondering, are 4-pin PWM, which is what you'd expect to see these days, and also the standard 3-pin 5V addressable RGB. And if that wasn't enough, there's actually an included hub in the case itself, so you can wire up to 6 fans and 6 addressable RGB devices, and the 4 are already pre-connected, although obviously only 3 of them on the addressable RGB. So that's very cool. That controller also has a PWM output, ARGB output, so you can connect it to your motherboard, or you can use the convenient LED button on the case. So if you've got a slightly older motherboard that doesn't have any addressable RGB functionality, you can still press the button to cycle through the various colors, which you've probably just been seeing from the B-roll we filmed a little bit earlier. Right, let's get on with this. Like I said, I'm genuinely excited, so I'm all over the place with this. So let's start off with the front panel. The front panel, this is excellent. You've got a very nice porous front mesh panel there. Very easy to remove as well. Just requires 1 digit. At the bottom here, there's a little kind of indentation, although saying that, doesn't want to come off now. Oh, grabbed too far. But there we go. Magnetic at the bottom, and there's a very small lip at the top. which goes into the plastic here, which if I do on an angle, there you go. Very easy to remove and clean should you need to. So that is pretty good, like that a lot. The metal itself, actually pretty structural as well. A little bit of a bend to it, but it's going to be absolutely fine. Just probably best not to try sitting on it. With that out of the way, we can take a look at these fantastic fans, and they are fantastic. I really do like these. Why is it that all case manufacturers can't include fans of this kind of quality into their builds, especially at this really, really low price? So we've got 3 140mm fans, like I said already, PWM, ARGB. I think they look great. They move an absolute ton of air, so that is excellent. But if for some reason you get the case where you have it either without fans or fans that you don't particularly like these non-RGB ones, you can fit in here any 140mm fans, or you can replace these with 3 120mm fans. And conveniently behind these, there's actually about 60mm of depth. So if you want to go full hog and put an AIO behind it, 360mm AIO, and some fans so you can have a push-pull setup, you've got plenty of room to do that should you want to. Although I think really because this is included and the price point is more aimed towards more modest or budget builds, you're probably going to go with air cooling in this to keep costs down, in which case this is going to be great because it moves an absolute ton of air. Next we'll move around to the side panel. So we've got a tempered glass side panel, 2 captive thumb screws on the far side. I've loosened those off already, so just slide it backwards and you can remove the glass. Nice thick glass, I think that's 4mm. Very nice structural piece, and again captive thumb screws so you don't lose them when you take it off. If you go with either the black or the white versions, the glass isn't tinted at all, completely clear glass, so it's going to let all your goodness of your RGB, if you've got it inside, shine through and look absolutely wonderful. So now let's take a look inside. So bottom, we've got a fully enclosed basement on the side section, so no cutouts on the side, which I think doesn't look great in some instances, but you may prefer that, but I like a nice solid panel. The top of the basement has a nice hexagonal mesh design, which is going to be great because that's going to allow airflow from this bottom 140mm fan, of which some of it is below the line here of the basement. So it's going to push along here and into your graphics card area as it comes back up through. So that's very useful. You can mount 2 120mm fans on the top here if you want to. There's no screws included for that, but if you want to, you can. There's also an absolute ton of pass-throughs as well, which is going to make wiring up your graphics card or other components very easy indeed. So we've got a large cutout here for your PCI Express graphics card. So that's going to come out of there into here. So if you've got a big card, that's going to be great. You also at the back got 3 additional pass-throughs. So the one at the far end for HD audio, things like that. The middle one maybe for some fans, addressable RGB, and the front one here possibly for things like your front panel I/O and possibly USB 3.0, depending on the motherboard layout. Like I said previously, there is about 60mm of gap between the frame and also the back of the basement there. So if you want to put an AIO in there, you can do. Like I said before, you can put up to a 360mm AIO in there if you need to. Moving around to the side panel here, so there are options there. So you can install 2 hard drives in there, should you want to, or an SSD, whatever you want to do. A couple of mounting sections there for attaching drives if you want to. And of course, we have got some rubberized grommets. The rubber is a little bit on the cheap side. It's not very flexible, but yeah, it's absolutely fine. And it's better to have some grommets than none at all. At the top, you've got 3 pass-throughs as well, and also a ton of room in the top. So if you do put a radiator with fans on, you're still going to have an absolute ton of clearance for gaining access to things like your EPS connector, your chassis fan headers, CPU headers, all those kinds of things. So really nice amount of space in here. And it does support up to extended ATX motherboards, so that's the KEB format, so you can come right out should you need to. Also some little nice features. So you have got the motherboard standoffs pre-installed in the ATX style, and also the centralized one is actually a locating pin, so when you put your motherboard in, it's going to kind of lock into place nicely for you to put your screws in. Little things like that I really do appreciate. And of course, as you can see, there is a massive cutout here for gaining access to the back of your motherboard. So if you're putting in custom cooling or just need to gain access to your backplate for your motherboard, really nice big cutout there. Something else which is very cool, which you're probably not getting a very good shot of from here, but the PCI Express blanking plates at the back, of which there are 7 of them. All of them are removable and replaceable, none of those horrible captive bend out ones, which you quite often see on more budget orientated cases these days. Above that, at the back there, so we've got our single 140mm fan on there, non-RGB, which I think is a little bit of a shame. Would be really nice if they'd put the addressable RGB one in the back. Potentially you might want to swap that out, but I think for most people it's going to be absolutely fine. And again, same rotational speed, so 350 RPM at its lowest rate, up to 1500 RPM at the most. If we take a look at the top, so when it comes to installing radiators or fans in the top, you can put 3 120mm fans, 2 140mm fans, or of course you can put a 360mm radiator, so 360 in the top or 360 in the front should you want to, and obviously smaller ones as well. There is a removable magnetic dust filter, and it does have the same design as the front panel to keep it all looking nice. As you're probably seeing for some B-roll, the top section as well also matches up, so hexagonal mesh there on the top, which is really good for letting your case breathe. Also, for those of you that are wondering, when it comes to air cooling in here, you can fit up to a whopping 180mm CPU cooler in there, which is absolutely phenomenal. And also for those of you that are concerned about what GPUs you can put in here, this isn't going to be a problem at all. Up to 400mm for your GPU, so RTX 4090 is going to fit in there absolutely fine if you want to. So let's move around to the back of the case. So at the top there, we've got the space there for the 140mm fan, which is pre-installed. You can put a 120 in should you want to, and there's some adjustment up and down if you need to. You've got your IO shield cover there, and PCI Express brackets there, removable, and also using the hexagonal mesh to keep it all nice and looking the same. At the bottom here, we've got our ATX power supply section, so that will take up to a 240mm power supply if you keep the drive cage installed. If you remove it, you can basically have it as long as you want. There is also at the bottom a nice little filter, which is actually relatively easy to get at, even with my chunky fingers. Just push this down and you can pull the sled out, and it's got a really nice fine mesh on there. And then to slot it back in, even from a slightly unusual angle, which I'm doing here, goes in, and make sure you push it all the way in and it will lock into place. Now we can take a look at the back section. So very boring, but very flat and no marks in it. So didn't get damaged in transit, which is always nice to see. Sometimes you get cheaper cases and they come with kind of cheap packaging as well, a bit flimsy. But this actually, the styrofoam which is packed in, absolutely fantastic. No damage to the case whatsoever. Removing this, 2 captive thumb screws again, and there's a handle on the side, so you can just pull that back and remove the panel. So now we can take a look at the back section. So yeah, pretty much what you'd expect to see from a typical ATX type case. So let's go through very quickly. So you've got your front panel connectivity, and also you've got some included Montech cable straps there, so you can use those. Nice bit of Velcro to keep everything nice and tidy. There is quite a lot of wiring going on here, but we have got 4 fans installed, so naturally you are going to have some additional wire in. You can also see the included addressable RGB and PWM hub there. This uses SATA power, which comes down through. So when it comes to the hub, you've got 1 SATA power cable. You've also got a single PWM 4-pin, and also there's an addressable RGB header. So those 2 will plug into your motherboard to pass through your control. So if you want to use motherboard software, you can use that. Alternatively, if you just want to have it powered and get a PWM signal, you can do, and then use the button on the top of the case, which we'll look at later, and that can cycle through the LED lighting. Again, you're probably seeing that from some B-roll we filmed a little bit earlier. There's not a huge amount of options there, but you've got all your usual things. So you've got some static colors, you've also got a rainbow puke and some other kind of chase patterns. Overall, very nice, works very well. If you want to swap between the 2, if you've got a motherboard installed with addressable RGB connections, press and hold the LED button for about 4 or 5 seconds. The LEDs will flash on the fans, and then it will revert control either from the LED switch or to your motherboard. Something else I should point out about the hub as well, you do make sure that there is a fan connected to the white color-coded ports on there. That is the sense port, so that is going to send the rotational data back to your motherboard to let it know what the spinning speed is, so it can adjust it accordingly depending on how you've got it all plugged in. There's also some plastic covers over the addressable RGB ports on the top, so whilst they're not in use, they are covered so as not to short out on anything. And like I said, from the standard, you can add another 3 addressable RGB devices and also an additional 2 fans. Of course, you can daisy chain them as well should you need to. Underneath that, we've got the big cutout as well, and also there's lots of little places for putting cable ties, so they've really thought about potential cable management in here. Loads of tie down points, which is really nice to see. Then you've also got these 2 removable sleds. So these are for 2.5-inch drives. These are also on thumb screws, which aren't overly tightened at the factory, so you can actually undo them without needing a screwdriver, which is actually quite useful, being that they are thumb screws. But anyway, so yeah, loads of tie down points, loads of options. Again, you can see the mountings here for attaching hard disk drives. If you want to, you can get a couple of hard disk drives on there or a couple more SATA drives. I think most people these days are heading towards M.2 drives, so these are becoming less important, but certainly nice to have as an option. So let's move down to the connectivity in terms of our front panel case I/O. So the first one, there is a USB Type-C. So yes, it's a £60 case and it's still got USB Type-C. A lot of manufacturers could learn a lesson here. There's also two USB 3.0 ports, which again, some manufacturers could definitely learn a lesson there. We're still seeing some with USB 2 ports for some bizarre reason. And also we do have the HD audio connection, as you'd expect, for connecting your front panel audio. So there's a separate headphone and mic jack, which you can plug into your motherboard. And the last one for this section, so we've got our front panel connectivity, so power LED, hard drive LED, reset switch, and your power switch. The other cables you can see here, so these are the ones which I was talking about from the hub at the top, so I've just cable managed them down through. So a SATA power connection, so that is going to power the hub and also the connected devices. You've also got the 4-pin PWM connection for fan speed monitoring, and also the addressable RGB to pass RGB from your motherboard or a separate controller to the fans and via the hub. Also, we're down in the bottom, so there is a removable drive rack, so you can put two 3.5-inch drives on there should you want to, one on the bottom, one on the top, or you can put a 2.5-inch drive on the top. That is removable and adjustable, so you can pull it out, two thumb screws on the bottom, you can remove it out. It's actually on rubber sleds as well, which is really nice, and you can move that back a little bit. So if you are putting a radiator in the front and you want a little bit more space, you can just pull this back a little bit. That will encroach slightly on the power supply basement. Nice big area though, going to be absolutely fine even if you've got a power supply which doesn't have removable cables or modular cables. You've got loads of room for storing stuff back down here. Again, it's all ventilated nicely, and also there's some rubber pads on there as well to stop vibrations transferring from your power supply into the case, which again, for a relatively inexpensive case, these are the nice features that we expect to see but don't always get. So now we can take a look at the bottom. So again, two removable thumb screws there, remove that, and then you can adjust the rack for the hard drives if you want to, move it, take it out, move it back a bit, whatever you want to do. And also we can get a better look at the power supply cover, filter, so nice mesh there, easy to remove, and again, hexagonal mesh for better ventilation. Push it in and then all the way, and it locks in at the front section. The feet are raised up about 1 inch, and also there's rubber pads on there as well to stop vibrations coming through. Now we can take a look at the top. So the top, like I said, we've got this removable magnetic dust filter in there. You've also got options in here, so you can put 3 120mm fans, 2 140mm fans, or you can put things like a 360mm radiator, 280mm, 240mm, etc, etc. And then you've got your I/O, so you've got a power button there, which also has a power LED and also hard drive activity LED built into it, so that's kind of nice. You've then got our two USB 3.0 ports, so that's going to be 5 gigabit per second. You've then got your USB Type-C, so that's going to be 10 gigabit per second. And then you've got a split microphone and headphone jack. Then you've got your reset button, and next to that is the dedicated LED button to cycle through the LED colors, of which we'll take a look at next. Now before we take a look at the LED lighting, we'll take a look at the accessories actually, because the interesting thing about this really is great for beginner builders. So you get a instruction manual telling you how to put it all together, how it all works, etc, which is excellent. But what I really do appreciate is this accessories bag. So in here you've got things like your cable ties, you've got all your different screws, you even got a case standoff removing tool, an adapter, which is excellent. But something which is actually very good, especially again, if you are a beginner, this is maybe your first PC you're building, or maybe you're more experienced and just you don't always have the eyesight to pick out the screws. Every single one of the screw bags is clearly labeled saying what it is and what it fits and how many of the screws there's meant to be. So this is absolutely brilliant. So yeah, there's one that says copper sleeve. That is actually the motherboard standoff remover. So yeah, maybe there's a little bit lost in translation there, but otherwise it's all great. So it says whether it's for the motherboard, whether it's for hard drives, the specialized SSD mounts, all that kind of stuff. Very nice to see that kind of level of detail, and it really does help the beginner builder, and like I said, some of the more experienced ones as well. So we can have a look at the lighting here. So as you can see, it's all powered up. It actually looks quite nice. I think the fan blades themselves are really good. The LEDs in the middle do stick out a little bit, but only on certain angles. Overall, I think they've done a really good job. I've tried to get the camera ISO as accurate as possible, so it looks to me how it looks on camera. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think it probably does. But yeah, I think they've done a very good job here. It looks very nice. They're actually quite bright as well, and it illuminates quite evenly, I think, personally. Obviously, you will get some differences in certain colours because white is obviously a lot brighter and uses more power, so it looks brighter. And the human eye is more receptive to certain colours, i.e. for men, I think it's green. But anyway, regardless. So let's cycle through some of the lighting effects. So you press the button on the top. Again, this is just using a regular ATX power supply, just connected straight to the hub. We've got no motherboard in here, as you can see. You can just press that button to go through it. If you press and hold it, I'm not sure whether it's going to do it. Yeah, it's going to flash. So now this is going to be in motherboard mode, but obviously we haven't got a motherboard installed, so we'll press the button again and it'll go back to the onboard controller and go through the various cycles. So you've got your green, blue, etc. Some actually quite nice effects here. You've got red, green, blue, yellow, white. The white's actually really nice, and it's a very clear and clean white, I think. Very, very slight tinge of blue to it, but yeah, actually I think that looks really nice. So of course you've got statics as well. You can go through, choose whatever color pattern you actually like. There is one which, if I can get to it, yeah, this is the color cycle one. So if you want the kind of Aurora Sync type look, then this is going to be great for you. Press it again and we go back to our unicorn puke, which I think is absolutely fine. And again, these fans, 140mm, 350 RPM at its lowest, which is absolutely brilliant. They don't move obviously a great deal of air at that, but they're absolutely silent. Realistically, I'll probably say you want to start them around about 600 RPM, so they're actually moving a decent amount of air, and at that point you're not going to hear them at all. They are very, very quiet indeed, which is bizarre because there's no rubber grommets or anything on the corners of any of the fans. They just seem to have done a particularly good job. And how they can manage to get 3 fans addressable RGB plus a non-RGB in the back, a USB Type-C cable, 2 USB 3.0s, magnetic filters, hexagonal mesh, excellent build quality, rubber grommets. How did they do it for £60? I really don't understand it. Now, the closest competitor to this previously, like I said, was the GameX F15 mesh, which I absolutely adored. That was a great case, although the 200mm fans, they're okay, but yeah, they're hard to replace should you need to, and I think most people would probably prefer 140s just to have the options to do other stuff with. But in terms of, for £60, I think this is, I keep on saying it, it's phenomenal, spectacular, and all those kinds of words. I genuinely don't understand how they're able to do it for the money. When it came out originally, I think it was about $75. It has reduced very slightly. It's been out just over a year now. I think it came out just after CES 2003. So it's been on the market about a year. I'm a little bit late to the game on this, I appreciate. And for some reason, Montech was one of those brands I just really didn't have a lot of interest in. But after seeing this case and what you get for the money, the build quality, I was expecting it to be basically really flimsy and try and fall apart, but it's not. It's very well constructed, very strong. It's got all the features I could possibly want and more, and it's such a great price. So I think going forward, this is going to be one of the cases, is going to be one of my go-to recommendations. The GameX F15 previously was for the price and the features. This is even better and at the same price. If you take into context, inflation, all that kind of stuff, this should be a lot more expensive than it really is. So, excellent job. Very pleased to have found this one from Montech. Excellent case. I strongly suggest you go and get one. For your budget builds, your mid-range builds, maybe even your high-end builds. You've got enough airflow in here to deal with it, and also you've got the option for installing big radiators and loads of space to soak up that heat. So yeah, overall extremely impressed, very happy, and kind of makes me wonder what else Montech do. Maybe I should start spending some more money and seeing more Montech on the channel. What do you think? Is that something you want to see more of on Mike's Unboxing? Let me know in that comment section below. And of course, if you've got any comments or questions about this case, please do feel free to let me know in the comments section. I am actually going to be doing around about £600 mid-range PC build in this coming up very soon. So if you want to see how that goes, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you'll be notified of future video releases. But I think for now, I've said enough. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. If you have, smash the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and all that kind of cool stuff. And hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.